really nice hat that was beaded, but I wanted to get like a different other kinds of earphones. And Mark said, "Up your nose with a rubber hose," so I couldn't do it.
Well, good evening. Good evening. It is Tuesday evening. It's January 17th. I was about to say September. It's not September. It's
Look
January.
outside.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it feels like September outside. Yeah. And I am joined in the studio with a few extra people from the Sober Voices program. Why don't we go around the room and introduce ourselves? We'll start with you, Steve.
Bonjour, Makademi Magdagudnikas. Lakadakadoda, Waganakasino Dawa. Hi, my name is Steve Perry. Welcome tonight, and we've got some good people here to talk tonight. So,
All right. Yes.
Fujuni Jibamata Dizik, Bangi Etagon and Ata Ujabain, Ishkuday Queen Indigenous Cousin Migazidu Dame, who was a Gaikining in Dunjaba, which we see as in Dawig. My name is Diane Sullivan. I am from Lakudere, and I am here to talk about family and impact.
All right. Tracy?
Bonjour, Swasay Group and Dishnakas, Magazine and Dudem, or Dawasa, Zigning and Dundabat. My name is Tracy, and here to talk about our new program too.
Yeah. So, Steve, back to you. What have you been doing in the community? I know we were talking off the air that there was a need for a lot more going on, but man, there's a lot going on already. What's happening that you know of?
There's well, I know tonight they have a special program in the community, I believe.
Yes.
Yep. And
High in Plain Sight, it's called, and it's a virtual seminar on identifying those who are abusing and how to remedy that.
Yeah, and then there's meetings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'll get into that more later on after our primary speaker talks. But there's a lot of things going, and I'm pretty happy about it. I'm pleased to watch. It's been I don't know, it's going on 4 years since we started the programs here.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this. I'm out there looking at those people in the community that are still sober. Makes me feel really, really good. I was with one of them this morning, and she's doing real well. I'm really happy for her. And, I've been traveling over to Allie Phillips. The people in the community have called me to transport them over there, and other places. And of course, we have Bajiki and all the programs they have there, which I'm sure Diane will talk a little bit about some of those tonight.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of going on in the community, and that's good. And we're all working together, which is good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll get into more what you and Tracy have going on. Why don't we start with what's happening at Bajiki and with the family program?
Okay, thank you. So I want to talk about addiction's impact on the family, because for the family members, their person with a substance use disorder, they say, this is your deal. Look, you just get yourself clean and sober, we're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that person gets themselves clean and sober, and the family still struggles with everything that has impacted them. So what we do, and actually I do this through Hazelden Betty Ford. Once a month, I do an 8-hour virtual program for Native American families. So it is specific. We follow the Well Variety model. And what we do is we give family members education, because everybody knows this is a family disease, right?
Mm.
It doesn't just impact the person who is using. It impacts everybody who loves, lives with, or knows that person.
Yeah.
And so everybody needs to get better and work their own recovery. It is a little hard for family members to recognize that they have issues and that they need to work their own recovery. So in our program, we do kind of like the parallel process of addiction on our person side and on the family side. I should start by saying I'm what the family program calls a double winner, which means I have this disease, um, and I love somebody who has this disease. My last drink and drug was December 12th, 1981. December 13th, 1981, I went to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and in December I had 41 years of recovery.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
have been, I got sober when I was 10.
We're almost the same birthday because I was sober on April 4th, 1981.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I didn't get sober when I was 10 either. So we do this parallel process. So for those of us that understand substance use disorders, what we see in the person, like initially, is like a preoccupation with, I call it a drug of no choice, because I think that once you cross that invisible line, people say my drug of choice is.
Yeah.
And I call it a drug of no choice because I think once you cross that invisible line, there's no choice about it. And so we let family members know that that preoccupation the person starts to have, when can I get it? How can I use it? How can I hide? Get over the effects. It starts to take up a lot of time. Family members have preoccupation. Where's my person? Why aren't they answering the phone? I've sent text. I GPS their location. And so family members, everything that person goes through, preoccupation, loss of control. Oh gosh, I wish I would have written this down. But the progression of a substance use disorder is not kind of like on both sides. It's exactly the same thing. And so we're telling this person with a substance use disorder, you need to take care of this every day for the rest of your life. But you only have to do it for today. And then I will ask family members, what do you need to do? There's a recovery of your own to work every day for the rest of your life, but you only have to do it for today. So giving family members this education, it gives them hope because they don't have any when they come. Like I worked in the on-campus family program, and family members would say, I don't have any hope. This is my person's 15th treatment. Does anybody ever really get better? Does anybody get sober? And we say, I tell them, yes, people can get sober. And recovery is messy, complicated, and it doesn't always move in straight lines, but we never give up the hope that our person can't find their way. Oh, I thought Mary Ellen was in here.
She was. And she just gave us tobacco, and we will hold that, and she's going to do her pipe ceremony out there, and this is good. So what kind of, I guess, there's a couple of things. We have to change our thinking because it's that illness affects our habits, which are thinking and doing, but usually we don't do unless we're thinking. Sometimes we don't even think and we're doing stuff, but how do you start people on that path, especially family members, on, making that paradigm shift, or at least scratching the record and not playing the same thing over and over and creating a new record? What's that look like?
And that's exactly right. Because when I did groups with patients, I would tell them, I'm only asking you to change one thing.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm asking you to change? Everything. And then I'll tell family members, I'm only asking you to change one thing.
Yeah.
And that one thing is everything. And what I do want to emphasize is that how the disease impacts the families, they can be as sick or sicker than their person with a substance use disorder. They don't even know it. And so giving them this information, there's no guilt and shame about it. It's how the disease moves through family members. And
well, particularly in the area of enabling, they don't even realize we're doing it, and we're enabling that family member.
Yeah, so we give them education on boundaries and communication, because that tends to be the two biggest struggles in family members, is changing the way that we talk to each other and then setting boundaries. And we use the definition from Brene Brown that a boundary is my rule for what's okay for me. And I tell family members, if it's your rule for what's okay for you, you need to think about what that is. Because every single one of you know what you don't want anymore. Now you have to think about what is okay for you, and you set your boundaries around those things. And family members, they struggle with guilt and shame exactly like their person does. And we tell them that it doesn't do you any good to beat yourself up, to beat them up for things they cannot change. Get rid of that scorecard, because sometimes family members, you did this to me in 2018, and you're like, oh, what you call me in 2020, that cruise that we went on in 2022, that worked out really well for us, didn't it? And so I'll say, what is on that list that they can change? Nothing. So I say, are you willing to put that scorecard down and have your person not tell you that they're changing, show you that they're changing? And then family members, everything that they do out of love and fear, a lot of fear. Throw in a little bit of anger, and that's kind of where family members live. So we help them to address that fear. And fear is what spirals them out of control, trying to fix, manage, and control their full-blown growth.
Yeah. Wow. We're talking with Diane Sullivan of the Vajiki Wellness Center. And what was the part of the Vajiki that you're part of? What department?
So I work in a substance abuse program. I'm the substance abuse counselor there.
Okay.
And I'm just very grateful that my job allows me to do this virtual family program and so on.
Yeah, that's really odd. I used to work for Hazelden as well, and back before it was a Betty Ford Hazelden type of thing. But anyways, you were talking earlier too about a virtual youth program. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Hazelden and Betty Ford developed, when our campuses closed in 2020 because of the pandemic, we put together, and we had family programs on different campuses, so Center City, Plymouth, Minnesota, Palm Springs, California, which always sounded like a good place to go. we all had different family in Oregon as well.
Yeah.
And so when the campus closed, we all developed our own virtual family program. We still did it on the days that we had our program. And so the teams, the family program teams converged into one national family program team. And then we developed this same information across all of our programs, and we just offered it on different days. They have developed, one of my colleagues there developed a virtual family program for teenagers. So, kids don't feel comfortable sometimes sharing in front of adults, but they feel comfortable with their peers. And so that is once a month, 2 hours in the evening. We also have virtual, and all of these are free, by the way. All of these services are free. And the virtual family program for everyone is an 8-hour program, and that's available a couple days a week. And when we were kind of getting our team together, our director said, find a passion project, develop a passion project. And for me, it was developing a family program specific for Native people, because they said, we can't get people to come, we can't get Natives to come to the family program. And so we did some education on, there's some reasons for that, because what you represent is education and health and medical, which have been two systems that have been historically detrimental to Native people. And so we're asking you to, come in and trust us. And so that's what I worked on putting together, is that program. And I do it with a colleague from the Betty Ford, because Betty Ford and Rachel Mirage stayed that name. And so she is on that campus, and so her and I do this program. And then there also is Boundaries and Communication Workshops, which are free. All of these are at hazeldenbettyford.org.
Okay.
And you just click on family, and all this information's free.
Yeah. So, Steve, how does some of the things you do work hand in hand with what Diane is doing. What type of things happen with your groups? Because I think what Diane does is kind of during the day. You're kind of locked into that daytime hours.
Yeah.
Steve, you work on the non-office hours.
I think one of the most important things that she brought out is the fact that how important the family is, and that we need to stress that as much as we can, because there's a lot of positive and negative things that happen in families, and I think that if you work with the family as a group, then you have far more success, especially if the person is either coming back from being, we'll say, in treatment or something. People have visions of grandeur about somebody having a magic wand and they go away to treatment and somebody passes this magic wand over them and everything's just going to be perfect, or that because they went to treatment, everything's going to be perfect. And there's a whole series of things that have to take place in order to have a successful outcome, and working with the family, not only working with the family if the person's coming back physically, we'll say, into the household, but also trying to we'll say, mend the fences of maybe some things that have happened over the years. And then, we always have what I talk about a lot about is multi-generational trauma. There's a lot of multi-generational trauma out there. And that's another obstacle for especially Native families to deal with. And so you take all the things. You take the abuse. You take the substance abuse, the physical abuse, the trauma, and you put all those things together. And there's a lot of real challenges for people that work with community members out there, and both professionals and peer people. And the thing is that I've been in the program 34 years. What I've found is that you need to give people as many options as they can have. The more options of programs and meetings and all those different things that you can
different times, different days.
Yeah, there's never enough meetings.
Yeah.
I hear people in the community say, "Oh, we have so many meetings, and we already have a meeting on this or that." Well, it may not be accessible to somebody who really wants to have a meeting. So I truly believe that. And now that, we've been virtual here for some time, we have an opportunity to reach out to people in other communities. So we not only have that, but, I've always believed that the family is the center of wellness, that trip we take to wellness on that red road to sobriety. And it always was. I have one of my sponsors that used to say, back in the day, we didn't have a wigwam that said mental health on it, and one that said law enforcement, one that said all this. He said the community and the family, the community and the family work with those issues, And I truly believe that that's the center of success. And I'm so pleased to hear about some of the programs that Diane has discussed tonight. And the more we have, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I just know that I think we're trying to do as much as we can in this community.
Yeah.
To get at that. And there's a lot of obstacles out there. There's political obstacles, there's family obstacles, there's all kinds of different obstacles that are out there. But I think that if we continue to all work together and we continue to try to provide as many different types of programs that we can, the better off the community is going to be.
Yeah. Tracy, you have a focus in your life to help other women, and tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've noticed, how women respond to these things, both the addict and the family member, or how girls differ from, boys. I'm sure there's a different reaction to that. You might see more of what women go through as an addict in recovery or an addict trying to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? What's that women's point of view?
For women's point of view, I guess with the women, they're more vocal and they talk more,
Mhm.
and they're more easier for them to share their emotions, which is good for when there's a man in the group too. Then sometimes that man will open up in them groups
Oh.
also.
Okay.
So it's like I don't see people as women, men, or
Sure.
whatever race or whatever. We're here to support everybody because a lot of us have gone through things in life, and it's nice knowing that other people have gone through it too. And when you know other people have gone through it too, you're more likely to open up and share your story. And so it's a safe place to come and hear people going through the same struggles that you went through, and like I'm glad to hear Diane's working with families, but unfortunately, like a lot of us that are in sobriety are doing it on our own, and so we kind of become the family.
Yeah.
And we support each other in that way. Like I'll get up in the middle of the night and talk with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's okay, we got this, and
Yeah.
I might not run out and come right to you, but I'll stay on the phone with you.
Yeah.
And talk with you, listen to you. And because sometimes we just need somebody to hear us, and
Yeah.
and be there in the middle of the nights when
Mm-hmm.
places are closed and they can't go see their counselors, and we can hold them up until they can go see their counselors in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to say is that in treatment, which is what I do, is we give patients the education about their substance use disorder, specifically what happens with that change in the brain that occurs over time, because family members, they want to say, well, you're the one that chooses to use, the whole choice disease theory. And they'll say, well, you're the one that chooses to use. You're the one that chooses to pick up. Isn't that a choice? Yeah, it is. Until that person crosses that line and there's that permanent change in the brain that occurs. And family members need to know that, because everything is their fault and they understand that. So what we do during the day is we give them the education. Excuse me. And then what Steve and Tracy are doing in the community is just kind of continuing that, so that, because treatment's oftentimes not a one and done. We want it to be.
Right.
And the message needs to be consistent, and the community is that recovery is possible, and it's not a passive process. It's not going to jump into your lap because you're good looking. You're all good looking. It doesn't happen that way.
Right. It does. Yeah.
It's a very proactive process,
Mm-hmm.
and for both sides to understand. This is a substance use disorder is one of isolation. It has to isolate the person from their family, everything that's important to them, because if they can do that, this disease kind of does a happy dance, because it's going to get the opportunity to kill that person. And that's what I tell them. Don't ever underestimate. That's not the goal of your disease. It is. And so what the disease hates is anything that these guys are doing, because it cannot thrive in a place where there's community and connection. It hates that. That's why it works overtime. The minute a person walks into treatment, that substance use disorder starts telling, oh, I don't think I belong here. I think I'm in the wrong place. I never did that. I never did that. And it immediately starts to convince them how they are not like those people.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people is, don't look for how you're not like them. Look for how you're exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting because when people go to treatment, they're surrounded by the program 24/7. When they get out of treatment, because it might be a short term, 30, 60, 90 days, and they go back to their community, and all of a sudden that security of 24-hour bubble that you're in is gone. And what Tracy and Steve do, they can only cover, so many hours, but, Tracy was saying, well, she's up in the middle of the night talking to someone till, the next day. That just takes time and people and more people to do that. And when we talk about having all these programs, that just means we have more people out there and the community is growing. So that we're getting to a point where we could almost have 24-hour coverage for someone if they really, really need that. My question to Tracy, I was talking about what's the difference, how maybe Diane, you have how children, whether boys or girls, or it doesn't matter what sex they are, they all kind of experience the same thing. But I would think men, boys, girls, women, adjust to it differently, because men feel like, well, I can't cry, I can't, you get all these other stereotypes on you, and it's harder for them.
Exactly. And when we talk about the kids, I've worked with many patients over the years. This is my 36th year in the field, and I've worked with so many people who have said, well, my using didn't impact my family. I don't think my kids knew. I never used in front of them. We never fought in front of them. I went to work every day. And so in our on-campus program, we had kids 13 or not. And one of the questions I would ask those kids when they came is, how old were you the first time you knew something was different about your family? Maybe you didn't know what his name was, but you knew something was different. And when a girl in my group, the girl said 4 years old. The boy said maybe 5, but I don't ever remember when it wasn't. So they may not know what its name is, but they know there's this negative energy in the house. And what happens when children are that small, with those that know child development, is that little kids are very egocentric. Everything revolves around them, their little worlds, because they don't see the whole picture. And when there is this negative energy, what they start to think is that they're responsible for that. I've worked with so many kids over the years who have said, if I just didn't hit my little brother, my dad wouldn't drink like that. Or if I just grabbed my mom with the dishes. Which is why we need to give kids this information. Nothing you say or do makes them use. Nothing you say or do makes them recover. That's their job. But I always say that isolation, and I tell both sides, is that you never have to be alone in this again unless you choose to be. And I think when you think about that, that's pretty powerful. Is that I don't have to be isolated and alone unless I choose to be. Because I got these two here.
One of the things that I've noticed over the years, I'm sure everyone else has, is that people come in and they think they're in unique situations. You know what I mean? And then they hear other people talking about, like Tracy said a little earlier, about something that happened to them. And it's the same thing. And they hear that. And then that sometimes takes a little bit of that isolation away from them in terms of, hey, there's somebody out there who's had the same issues or faced the same problems or has had a situation, the same thing I have. So I'm not the only one in the world that this is happening to. And so that's very important that people can relate to that, whether it's good or bad. They can relate to that and see that they aren't isolated, and that there are places and people that care about them and want them to get better and want families to get better. And I think about that a lot. Almost every time we have a few new people that are new to the program and new to trying to walk that road, they'll along the line say something like, wow, man, I thought I was like the only person in the world that had this, that, or whatever, and they feel good about that they aren't, that they aren't, it isn't an isolated incident for the most part for them in terms of what they're experiencing. So I think that's really important, and I think that has a lot to do with the success. And one of the other things is relapse. That whole visions of grandeur about you go away to you go away to you go away to treatment, and you're going to come back, and everything's going to be fine. Well, I never condone it or support it, but the realities of it is there's going to be some relapse. Not for everyone, but sometimes there's going to be that, and then that person feels even more embarrassed and more ashamed and more and feel like they're a failure. But that happens, and I think when you have people that have been been in a situation where they've had substance abuse, alcohol abuse, whatever it is, they're a lot better prepared to deal with people that are in programs and stuff. If they've walked a mile in those people's shoes, if they've had an alcohol or substance abuse issue, they can relate to that sometimes far better than others, and that's why I think it's really important that that happens. That people that have walked a mile in their shoes, that have been on that journey and want to have a better life.
Yeah. You're listening to Anishinaabe Sober Voices here on WOJB, and our discussion today is about families and how addiction affects families, and how it not just affects the user, but again, that family member or the family members are affected as a family. So there's ways that we can work with the family as well as the user. And maybe you have a personal experience about this, or you have a comment or question you want to ask our panel here. Give us a call, and I'll just take the calls hot, Tracy. You don't have to answer them. Give us a call here at the station, 715-634-2100, and we'll get you on the air, and we'll interrupt our discussion because we'll just answer the phone live. 715-634-2100. Diane, any other comments and thoughts?
Well, I think, for both sides, because families relapse well before, and I don't like that word. I frame it as a setback. I think because this is a chronic progressive disease, and like any other chronic progressive disease, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, you can be doing everything that you need to do and experience a setback. So that's what I call it is that it's a setback.
Good word.
But about 60% of people in that first year have a setback. And and I always tell people, because when we hear that on the family side, we think, holy crap, 60% of people relapse in the first year. And like you said about changing the way that the way that we think. So what I ask family members is, and I always tell patients, 60% relapse, but you don't have to. You don't have to. And then I'll ask family members, so 60% have a setback that first year. What is the percentage that doesn't? 40% of people don't relapse, but we don't go there. On the family side, we default to the worst case scenario. And sometimes they have their person using already, and they're in treatment, getting the best care possible, but they already have that scenario in their heads. So just asking them to kind of reframe and change the way that we think as well.
Wow.
Yep, that's good. That's good.
The long pause. Tracy, say something. You've been sitting in the corner kind of quiet, so I'm going to make you talk. Talk about some of your experiences within your groups, or you and your family, and how that's been effective to you.
I guess I'll just add on to like what they were talking about on relapse, and when I went to a traditional treatment center when I was starting out my recovery, and I had a setback, and my counselor at the time, and I hid my evidence, and I was in treatment at that time too, but I hid my evidence, and my counselor, which was a native traditional, and he called a house group meeting or whatever, and he
Yeah.
puts the evidence out in the middle of the floor, and he's like, "Whose is this?" And of course, nobody claims it or whatever. And he's like, "Okay, everybody, pack up and go home." And so I raised my hand and I said, "Hey, let them stay. It's me."
Yeah.
And he starts clapping his hands, and I'm like, and all the counselors start clapping, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "You did it. You're honest."
Uh, yeah.
And they're like, "This is a program. You didn't become an alcoholic overnight. We don't expect you to sober up overnight." And I was like, "Wow."
Mhm.
and it made me look at it in a different way. And so, because like a lot of times when you do have a setback, that will push you to keep going and having more.
Yeah. Right.
And so you just can't
See,
can't
'cause
let
again,
that hold you back. You
Right.
gotta say, "Oh, I gotta do more." Go talk to somebody about
Yeah.
this, and not feel bad about it.
to Diane's point, we automatically go to shame,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where the counselors were telling you, "We're proud of you. You did
Yeah.
something correct," and wanted you to notice that. Versus, here's the evidence. You should be shameful, and it's like, no, you can't hold. Oh my, Steve!
there we go.
Steve loves rock and roll.
Yeah.
My
You gotta
goodness.
keep believing.
Don't stop believing.
That's right. Oh my goodness! Here we go again. It's probably Mary Ellen calling your phone just to make that happen.
It is.
She's
No,
laughing.
it's not. It
Oh.
is. It is.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And I think going along with what Tracy said is that if a person has a setback and they have to come back to treatment, there's no shame about it. We saw that during the pandemic, where somebody would come to treatment, work really well, and then go home and be isolated, couldn't go to meetings. So every meeting was online, and people aren't comfortable with that.
Mhm.
And they would have to come back and just to let them know you didn't unforget, you didn't forget or undo everything that you did when you were here. And when people leave treatment programs, they hear from their peers the 3 words I hate the most. I got this. I hate
Mm.
those words. And I tell patients, I don't got this. My best thinking got me here. That's what qualified me for the chair that I'm sitting in. These
Yeah.
guys got it for me.
Yeah.
My higher power got it for me. But it's
Mhm.
people that are in meetings just like me that got that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because saying you got this or I got this puts the responsibility back on the individual again.
Yeah.
And not on the family and the community. Yeah.
Yeah. I know another thing that Tracy brings to the table too is she's been doing sweats, in the community, and I know that's helped out a lot of people, especially.
Well,
those-
who's that?
uh, No.
Is there a phone out in the lobby? We're picking it up. That's all.
But
Anyways.
anyway,
Distraction.
Tracy is starting to do those, and we built a little lodge over at her place. And one of the things that two things. One thing that I've noticed is the younger people that have never been to a sweat have really, really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe Tracy, you can talk a little bit about your experiences with the sweat. I told them that you have sweats now, and that's another thing you bring to the community. And but maybe you might like to talk a little bit about that.
I think the sweat lodges help a lot. They help balance you out, mind, body, and spirit, because you can't only take care of one, you got to take care of everything. Otherwise, you're going to be unbalanced, and when you're unbalanced, you make bad choices. And and taking and relearning these ways, I put that out there a lot in our groups too, to pick up and go start, get out there and go learn the language and learn everything that we can, because we got to maintain all the stuff that so that our traditions don't get lost. So we need to learn, go out and reach out to our elders and be around our elders more. You get bored, you go help an elder.
Mhm.
You know, keep yourself busy with happy, positive things, and um and just working on crafts and learning your once you sobered up, your working done too, is because you still got that negative behavior, and starting to recognize that in yourself and start working on your inner self and becoming the you don't have. And another thing I always point out is you don't have to become somebody new. You're already who you are. You're meant to be. You just have to stop pretending to be somebody else
Mm.
and be your
Wow.
true self.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are going around and being a certain way just to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're more beautiful when you're just yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
and so I try to get people to do that, you know, and see the beauty in your own self. And once you start being your own self instead of trying to fit into the crowds, you and working on that self-love and learning how to love
Mhm.
yourself, because I know when I hated myself.
Yeah.
And now today I can actually say I love myself, and that's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I know another aside. I know that since I've been going to the jail and working with the residents there, one of the things that has made me feel good is that I hear some people say that young people don't care about the traditions anymore. But when I get there and they talk about things like their name, finding out what their clan is, knowing more about their family. And then some of the spin-offs from that is wanting to learn how to do things like leathercraft and working with porcupine quills and all the different things that can come out of basket making, that can come out of a program where their hands are, it's a hands-on program.
Mhm. Yeah.
And Tracy and I both have worked with those on the reservation as well, and we're going to try to get some more of those going again. But anyways, I just find that there's this thirst more than what I see is more than what I hear, and that is that there is an interest in that, and
Mhm.
that when they want to get away from how they were acting, whatever, they want to act in a traditional way, and they want to learn these things, and they want those tools. So
Yeah.
I know there's lots of young men and women both that wanted their names, wanted to know what their clans are, wanted to know a lot of things about being Native American, both contemporary and traditional things.
Mhm.
And I think that's wonderful too. And so the more we can do those kinds of things, I think it's important too. I think we all know the story about idle hands, and
Yeah.
how people can get themselves in trouble, and so we have that's another dimension. That's another that the hands-on crafting, or just being part of a group and having identity and having a product at the end of the rainbow, at the end of the
Mhm.
program or whatever, all those types of things. And I know that's been helpful too, because some of the And I mostly deal with the men, but some of the young men that get involved in the program, I write letters to their probation and to the prosecutors and stuff, telling them about these are some of the things that they've been doing, you know. And I know in a couple instances it's been good, where rather than sending them back down to jail or prison or go back down to Green Bay when they're up here and they got a job and they've got, they're back with their family or trying to be back with their family and all that. I don't see any real worth in sending them back down to spend 6 months in jail down in Green Bay, away from their family, away from their job, away from all those positive things that they've been able to do in their lives, just to sit in a cell all day long and not do anything. And I want to say that in the past 2 years, the prosecutors and the judges that I've worked with in Wisconsin have been open to some of these, and the court system of the tribe has been open to some of these alternative ways to secure detention, you know. I worked on a project in Michigan years ago, which was called Alternative to Secure Detention. And it worked then and it still works today. And we have a lot more technology today, but I think that it's that whole laundry list of programs and processes and such that we can turn to help people out in the community, you know?
Yeah. So we spent a good part of the program talking about what we do or what our programs are doing and what we have for groups and understanding. And we probably have a listener out there, I know, that probably didn't go to any one of the events that's happening here in the community. And they're either stuck with wanting to say, yes, I'm ready to make a change. I need to, they're admitting to their issue, whatever it is, a drug or alcohol, and they want to get help, or it's a family member that says, I know I need help because of my family member who's using, and I need to start the process for me, even though that person isn't doing anything about it. How do we get started? Diane, let's start with you. And how do people get into the door at Pajiki to talk to somebody and say, I need help?
And you just exactly said the biggest barrier is walking through the door.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really
Or
scary.
picking up the phone.
Yeah.
That's why we say when you need to ask for help, that phone weighs 600 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pick it up. But just making that first step, and again, it's letting them know this, you're not the only person in this. There's others. You don't have to be alone. But giving them the education, giving them some kind of peer support, which is really what these two are developing in the community, and just kind of opening the door for that ceremonial life, because I think that's key in recovery. And obviously with colonization, that was just destroyed, burned, outlawed, but it never went away. It went underground. And so part of what we do is just showing people this is how we live. Because I tell people, you can choose to be Catholic or Baptist or Protestant, but you're born Ojibwe, and you need to know what that means. And these are the places that you can go. And it's just, kind of breaking that first big thing and just getting in the door and just saying, here's my name.
Right. So how do they contact you, or what's the phone number they call? How do they reach you?
So they can call the clinic's main number, that's 715-638-5100, and then just ask to be transferred to Pajiki.
Okay, so say that one more time for the person who just grabbed their pencil and paper. Say the number again.
715-638-5100.
Okay, you got that, Steve?
Yep.
Okay.
What I'm going to do tomorrow is do a follow-up too, with whatever numbers or names or whatever, and say, well, this is what we talked about last night. This is who was there, and here's some numbers, to call. So
Yeah,
Thanks for
and
doing that.
and then let's post that on the Anishinaabe Sober Voices page. Maybe you can get it over to Jeezy and he can do it on Sober Visions.
Yep.
And what's the other Facebook page you have going now?
Anishinabe Nuji.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, Anishinaabe Nuji Oewin means healing. Okay, and there are a lot of programs out there, but my focus has always been on the Native American traditional programming, and so is Tracy's. And it's not that we don't support the others, that we don't do those, but we thought that we would like to put some real effort into doing that. And so we kind of sprung out and we just started to have our virtual meetings and come up with a little idea. And right now we're working on a little piece of information that we're going to put out to people on some of our philosophies and some of the things that we think that are important, of which we've talked about almost all those today. And you can, as you read these things, you'll see about how important the family is. Answering questions like, well, do I have to get all new friends? And all those types of things. And so that's what Tracy and I are doing now, and we're doing a program on Wednesday at 6 and Thursday at 6. And the Wednesday at 6 is basically a traditional program, and we do, even though it's virtual, we do the pipe, and we smudge, and we put tobacco in a place so that it can be mixed together and put in the pipe. And we do it just like you would a talking circle, an Anishinaabe talking circle, whether it's virtual or not, we encourage other people to do the same as if they are. We would pass the pipe. I haven't passed my pipe since COVID, just because of the opportunity there for problems and stuff. But we go through that whole routine so they can learn that practice that has been practiced for thousands of years. And that's one thing. And then Tracy came up with an idea about on Thursday doing a community talking circle. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Tracy, and the reason behind that.
The reason behind that is because a lot of people in the community are having mental health issues, and I don't only help people in recovery, I'll help anybody. and so I've been sitting there listening to like a lot of people and what they're going through, and they're not ready to take on the labels, I guess, alcoholic recovery or whatever. So I wanted a place where they felt safe to come and talk to too.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs support, no matter who you are. We're all going through something, and this is a safe place to come and share your whatever you're going through. You feel you need to talk, and it's not alcohol or drug related. It can be anything, just life.
Sure.
And I just want a happy, healthy community and be there in any way we can. And some are like really struggling with mental health issues, and they just need a safe place to come and talk.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have a caller on the line. Let's go to our caller. Please tell us your name and your question or comment. Yeah. You're on the air with WOJB.
Day. Oh my God.
Oh. All right.
I'll be to pick you up soon. Okay, walk over.
All right. Walk over. We'll get you. No. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, you're on the air.
Yay. Hey there.
Day, you're on the air.
Hey, where are you at? What are you doing? What are you doing over at the school? Oh. Yeah. So you were just out in the community doing some activities, and you weren't anywhere else, right? Yeah.
Good job.
I thought that voice sounded familiar.
So did I.
Oh dear. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. We'll see you in a while.
See you in a little bit.
But anyway, if people want to know more about Anishinabe Nuji, which is a short for
Yeah.
Nuji Awewin, we have a Facebook page,
Yeah.
and we also have a Facebook chat called Nuji Chat,
Okay.
NOOJI Chat, and I'll be putting all this stuff on the posting tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be posting it on my site and on the Nuji site, and
So spell that out for people who can't spell that, because
it's Anishinabe
yeah.
Nuji, NOOJI,
Okay, so that's what they should search for. It's
Yeah.
Anishinabe Nuji.
or Nuji, NOOJI
Yep.
chat on
Okay.
Facebook chat. Okay.
Okay.
And that way they can have a place to go to get the information and things. And then we're working right now. I said on this little information piece that we're going to be distributing, and I can send that file out to people as well. One of the things I wanted to say about our meetings is that I've been encouraging, and so is Tracy, more people to host the meetings, to
Sure.
be a host on so that they can learn how to do it, and that it's not a, you don't have to have be a brain surgeon to do all this stuff,
No,
and that
you're just facilitating discussion. And
yeah,
it's not like you're leading this, like you're the authority.
yeah, and it's a good experience for them too,
Yeah.
to do that and to have the confidence in themselves
Yeah.
as people in recovery to do these types of things. And I've been really happy about the response to that too.
Yeah.
And how we do that is we have certain readings and things we do, and I have a way of getting that out to people before we have meetings. And so that's been something that's been making it more effective. And even having people during the meeting saying, I think I might like to host a meeting.
Yeah.
I think I might like to do that.
All you need is another space
That's
that can
right.
hold 5 or 6
Yeah.
people, and
Right.
another person to, again, having one more night available, or a
Exactly.
different location, different time of day.
I know.
That's real critical.
But those are but like I said, tomorrow on Anishinaabe Sober Voices and on,
And you'll
Some other
post a
places.
link for the Zoom
yeah.
meeting and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is all virtual. They can't go somewhere to
Now we've had a real
participate.
difficulty finding a place to
Yeah.
meet in this community. It's
Yeah.
kind of sad, but I guess other people have had the same kind of challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
We'll
a few
advocate
minutes
for-
left, so go ahead, Diane.
We'll advocate for a sober drop-in center
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
to get set up where people can just walk in and be
Mhm.
welcome.
Maybe this
Yeah.
summer we'll fundraise.
Yeah.
Let's do a
Yeah.
car wash.
Yeah. Tracy, any final thoughts from you besides your daughter coming over to find you?
I'm gonna- this is
Apologize for
this is
that.
recorded. This is recorded.
Yeah.
And every time I
Also-
see her now, I'm gonna play it.
Play it over. and
Hey,
over.
what's it? Oh.
All right. Anyways.
I'm at a loss for words right now, but yeah, once we get a place to meet in person, we can do so much more.
Yeah.
And another thing that we didn't mention that we also have done with them is we make prayer ties and prayer
Oh, yeah.
flags,
Okay.
which help us along our way and get that prayer pole and
Yeah.
and try to learn the songs, because I know like when I'm stressing, singing the songs is what helps carry me through,
Yeah.
and I just try to share like the things that work for me, I guess, and whether it works for them or not, that's their choice. And I like do meditation, I get into the chakras, I get into everything.
Yeah.
And I wake up, do yoga. You got to do like things for yourself in
Yeah.
order to get a healthier self.
Yeah.
So
You got to be healthy yourself before you can help others.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. Diane, one more time, the phone number for people to call to get to the Bajiki Wellness Center.
715-638-5100.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in and being our guest. I got you sandwiched between these two crazy people, but that's all right. We need some crazies. Well, you got a crazy in front of you too, so that's now
These
you're
are my
really sort
peeps.
yeah.
This is thin line between genius and insanity.
It's a very thin line. All right, you've been listening to Anishinabe Sober Voices here on WOJB 88.9 FM. We're going to go over to Drum Song with Mr. Thomas Kane.
I know one of those calls.
Yay!
One of those
Is
was
that-
Susan.
Was that? I figured that was who was calling you.
What a question. Thank you.
Start off
Well,
with
thank
a
you.
lot of seniors, man.
That was painless.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
You may have a nephew or niece.
See, school. So here you go, man.